When you think of children's nursery rhymes, the first things that come to mind are executions, plagues, and torture, right? No? Well, maybe they should be. History is full of dark and chilling events that have often found themselves interwoven into seemingly harmless forms of literature, and nursery rhymes by Mother Goose herself are no exception. In this episode, we're going to be taking a look at the sinister secrets behind some of the world's most beloved kids' songs. Welcome to Asinine Asylum, where the twisted and terrifying reside. Please feel free to voluntarily commit yourself by hitting that subscribe button, and make yourself at home as we dive into the dark history of nursery rhymes.
Here we go round the mulberry bush, the mulberry bush, the mulberry bush. Here we go round the mulberry bush on a cold and frosty morning. This is a song children all around the world are familiar with. First recorded in 1840 by James Orchard Halliwell, it also has a surprising origin story. According to historian R.S. Duncan, the true inspiration for the mulberry bush actually dates back more than 400 years. It was a real tree that female inmates at Wakefield Prison in West Yorkshire, England exercised around. The mulberry tree in question died in 2017 and was subsequently cut down and removed in May 2019. Clippings from the tree that were taken during the 1980s have since grown into mature trees, and other clippings taken from these trees will be planted at Wakefield to replace the mulberry tree. Other scholars have argued that the story refers to Britain's attempt to produce silk by cultivating silkworms in mulberry trees. It should be noted that mulberries don't actually grow on bushes, but the rhyme is catchy nonetheless. Baa Baa Black Sheep, have you any wool? Yes sir, 3 bags full. 1 for my master, 1 for my dame, and 1 for the little boy who lives down the lane. One popular theory about the origin of this nursery rhyme is that in 1272, King Edward I imposed taxes on Britain's wool as a way to pay for the debts his crusaders accumulated on their return to England from the Holy Land. These tax requirements were referenced in Baa Baa Black Sheep's allotment of bags of wool to various parties, which included his master. A more modern theory is that this rhyme was made in reference to the slave trade, particularly in the southern United States. There is no supporting historical evidence for this being an origin, however, and was mostly just used as ammunition in political debates and nursery rhyme reform in the 1980s. Mary, Mary, quite contrary, how does your garden grow? With silver bells and cockle shells and pretty maids all in a row. The rhyme Mary, Mary, quite contrary made its first appearance in Tommy Thumb's Pretty Song Book in 1744. Since then, there has been much discussion about who this song was actually about. The darkest interpretation states that the rhyme refers to the Catholic monarch Mary I of England, also known as Bloody Mary. They say the garden in the song is actually referring to England, and the contrariness mentioned in the verse alludes to her bloody persecution of Protestants. As for the meaning behind silver bells and cockle shells, they were devices of torture used by Bloody Mary's executioners on her Protestant subjects. The pretty maids all in a row line is thought to be referring to her miscarriages, her execution of Lady Jane Grey, or even to her executions of the Protestants under her rule. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a tiger by the toe. If he hollers, let him go. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Though it does sound like something the animal rights organization PETA might object to, there's nothing really dark about catching a tiger by the toe. There's nothing dark per se about the origin of this song either, but there is something twisted about some later iterations of the song. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries in the United States, some schoolchildren replaced the word tiger with a racially offensive slur that specifically targeted black people. This version was mostly used in the US until Rudyard Kipling published his own version using this word in 1935, which helped extend its popularity to the United Kingdom. Thankfully, this version is not popular today. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. Every time you see and hear about Humpty Dumpty, he's often depicted as a cartoonish egg sitting on a wall. That's probably the first thing that comes to your mind as well. But the most popular theory about this song is that it isn't about an anthropomorphic egg falling off a brick wall and cracking, but a reference to the Second English Civil War in 1648. This theory states that Humpty Dumpty was a gigantic siege cannon. Royalists employed it during the war, and they set the cannon up at the very top of the St. Mary at the Walls church tower, where it remained until parliamentary forces damaged the wall beneath the cannon and Humpty took his infamous fall. The Royalists attempted to fix the cannon, but were unsuccessful, and thus the final two lines of the rhyme were born. London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. London Bridge is falling down, my fair lady. This song doesn't sound very happy even with the delightful melody that accompanies it. It sounds like a catastrophe in the making, so the origin story of this rhyme shouldn't be too surprising. The most popular origin story is that this song is about an 11th century Viking attack, specifically the alleged destruction of London Bridge at the hands of Olaf II of Norway. Some historians argue that the attack never took place, however, and some people believe the Vikings are the ones who created the song, which might explain why this song is popular all over the world, even in non-English speaking countries.
The issue with that, however, is that it relies on the assumption that Samuel Lang's 19th century translation of an Old Norse poem was actually translated correctly. The translation begins, "London Bridge is broken down, gold is won, and bright renown." It's also likely that the Old Norse poem was intentionally mimicking the already well-known nursery rhyme.
Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Jack fell down and broke his crown, and Jill came tumbling after. This story is a bit different from most of the others on this list, in the sense that it already sounds like a dark tale without even knowing the history behind it. Jack fell down the hill and received a traumatic brain injury, and then Jill fell down too? Seems like a bad day on the hill. Historians have said the story commemorates a love affair between an unmarried couple who regularly met on a hill in secrecy. The legend states that Jill became pregnant, but Jack died before the birth of their child by falling from the hill. Soon after, Jill died in childbirth, where she then went tumbling after her deceased lover. Three blind mice, see how they run, see how they run. They all ran after the farmer's wife, who cut off their tails with a carving knife. Did you ever see such a sight in your life as three blind mice? As it turns out, Bloody Mary was the catalyst for more than one popular nursery rhyme. Three blind mice refers to her order to have three Protestant bishops brutally tortured, blinded, and subsequently burned to death at the stake. This twisted origin story is backed up by the original version of the rhyme, which includes the verse, "She scraped off the entrails and licked the knife." Which is strange, I don't remember that version on Cocomelon. Goosey, goosey, gander, whither shall I wander? Upstairs and downstairs, and in my lady's chamber. There I met an old man who wouldn't say his prayers, so I took him by his left leg and threw him down the stairs. Surely when you hear a song called Goosey, Goosey, Gander, you don't think of religious persecution. But maybe you should. Some have alleged that this rhyme refers to priest holes, hiding places for Catholic priests during the persecutions under King Henry VIII in the 16th century. If a priest was discovered in one of these holes, they would be punished, for example, thrown down the stairs. Left leg was a slang for Catholic priests in that time. Can't say his prayers likely refers to the banning of Latin language prayers when priests were mandated to read from the English language Book of Common Prayer. Ring around the Rosie, a pocket full of posies. Ashes, ashes, we all fall down. This is a popular nursery rhyme and game among schoolchildren where they all end the rhyme by falling down onto the grass. One of the most widely accepted origins of this rhyme, however, is so dark it'll send shivers up your spine. The theory is that this song refers to the 1665 Great Plague. The Rosie is the rash that covered the afflicted, the smell from which they attempted to cover up with a pocket full of posies. Sneezing and coughing were the final symptoms of this disease, and the last line of the song, "Ashes, ashes, we all fall down," refers to the fatal conclusion of this horrific disease. The Great Plague killed nearly 15% of England's population.
No, it's not likely that all of these explanations are completely based in reality, but I wouldn't be surprised if at least some of them are accurate. After all, most of these rhymes were created in a time where the world was full of deadly diseases and murderous royals. Okay, so not much has changed since then, but you get my point. Thanks for tuning into another video. Please hit those like and subscribe buttons and turn on notifications so you can be first in line for more true and fascinating horror stories like this. It's farewell for now, my patients, and I'll see you in the next video.